Welcome to this week's Heroes Table. I hope you guys are as excited as we are to talk about what we have on the agenda today. Speaking of the agenda, let's get to that right after this introduction. Not the sponsor, we're not sponsored yet, but this introduction. I am Hisha, as you know from the Discord, and with me I have my co-host Teluvius and Midnight.
Hello.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Alright, now let's get to the agenda. We did the introductions. Today's topic is the Avenger. So if you've been looking forward to hear more about the Avenger, then now is your time. Also, let me just adjust my camera. It seems a bit high. There we go. It looks much better. Alright, and as always, we will end with a Q&A session. You're welcome to ask questions from now and until the end, and we will take up questions when it becomes relevant. If it's relevant to what we're discussing on the topic, we might take the question earlier than the Q&A. Otherwise, your question might have to wait until the Q&A part. It depends if there's a natural break for it where we can do that. But yeah, you can send in questions all the time, and we will keep track of it. All right, I think that's it for me, and let's hear about the Avenger. Take it away.
Awesome. So, the Avenger is a story of a rise to prominence and a fall from grace, if you will. So, our story begins with Rowland, who is the son of a poor family. And his father passes away when he's young, and in an effort to make a living and better his chances in this world, he starts working in the king's castle, and in doing so, quickly becomes a favorite of folks in the castle. He's eager to please, works hard. And people start noticing him around the castle. And so he is a squire in the court and starts getting noticed just for being helpful, being a good guy around the castle. And one of the people that notices him is the king. The king doesn't have any children, and so sort of sees, develops this relationship with Roland, one of a mentor and sort of a father figure. Roland doesn't have a father and the king doesn't have a son. So the king really takes him under his wing and starts teaching him about being a just ruler and how to fight, how to lead, how to reign as a good king. The king is beloved by his people and known for his, always pursuing justice in the kingdom. So Roland, with this relationship, really learns a lot and is really formative in who he is and who he will become. And he goes from squire when he's old enough. He is knighted by the king himself and continues to prove himself a capable warrior, a good leader, a just knight of the echelon. And if you'll recall from previous stories, we've heard about the echelon sort of in a different way. So in terms of timeline, this story predates that shift, and we'll discuss that more. But he becomes a knight of the echelon and protects the kingdom. Carries out justice throughout the land, protects the land from foreign invaders, helps the king rule in his just manner. And the real goal of all the knights in the echelon is to enter this. I might be misspeaking here. Is to enter this inner circle, and it turns out that one of the leaders of this inner circle dies. And at this point, Rowland has been a knight for a while now, and has proven himself capable, and has gained a reputation for exemplifying everything the king and the kingdom should be. Um, being equal in justice and working hard, and um, a lot of that is based on his interactions with the king and the lessons that the king has told him. Sorry. So I've been misspeaking here. He became a knight. He was a knight of the kingdom. This inner circle is known as the echelon. So sorry about that. There's a distinction there. So Roland this whole time has been a knight of the kingdom, and the leader of the echelon, the high seat, dies unexpectedly. And Roland has gained such favor with the court, the people of the land, the king, that he is a shoo-in. He is the youngest knight to take this honored position, um, and he's given the high seat in the echelon, and he's just getting everything he's ever wanted. His prominence in the court is accelerating. His status in the kingdom is obviously increasing, being the son of a poor family. So he's really getting everything that he's worked so hard to gain. During this time, he catches the eye of a woman at court, and they sort of have this whirlwind courtship and end up getting married. And he begins a family, and after he takes this high seat in the echelon, he's invited into the king's castle. He gains his own he's given a tower in the king's castle to live in, since now he's going to be working a lot closer with the king. So he's really kind of like the building up. He's finally reached the peak. He is a knight in the highest seat that you can hold in the kingdom for a knight. Has a great relationship with this father figure, and all of this. He's really reveling in all of this and enjoying it, and enjoying the fruits of his labor. And he doesn't quite notice that the king occasionally has odd requests or odd orders. Something that's not quite in line with the sense of justice that Roland was raised with, and that the king really taught him. And as these orders, Rowland is quick to defend the father figure that is the king, and dismiss them as, maybe he just has a higher purpose, or there's a plan here. It's nothing, too odd. I'm sure he's working on something. I'm sure everyone can relate to having a role model. If that role model starts acting a little odd, you sort of play that off. No, they have a plan. I know them well. They have a plan. And this continues, this shift, the frequency of these odd orders. The king begins treating them less and less like warriors of justice, and more as enforcers of his will, as you might think of some other kings doing with their knights. And this starts to sort of concern the knights of the kingdom, and eventually the echelon itself. The echelon is, as we discussed, this inner circle, so it's a council of trusted knights, and this division works its way into the echelon. And Rowland is trying to bring these two growing divisions in his ranks together as the high seat. That's his role. And as he notices these divisions growing, he takes his concern to the king, who does something odd at this point. The king, in private, turns him away angrily, denies all of these accusations and has this odd reaction that Rowland's not used to. And then the king takes it a step further, and the next chance he gets reprimands Rowland in public, which sort of takes him aback some. So unbeknownst to Rowland, but what we have in the story here, what we reveal in the story is that the king did in fact have a higher purpose for these more enforcement, bully orders. And that's that he was seeking a division in the ranks. He was finding the knights in his ranks that he could trust to follow these types of orders, ones that wouldn't question motives and would just carry out whatever the king said. And this goes on for a matter of months, and Rowland is increasingly concerned and confused by this division by the king. And then one day, this all comes to a head. The king wakes up and is in a particularly foul mood. And what we reveal in this story is that he has been acting oddly for a reason. His mind has been poisoned slowly by a powerful psychic that you may or may not remember from the past couple of episodes, who was slowly working her way into an unnamed king's mind. So the king wakes up on this day, and this is the day that Ziria plans to make her move. So the king brings orders these knights, the knights that he has found will carry out any orders, to him, and he gives them all a secret order for that day. And this happens in the morning. Later in the day, there's a meeting of all the knights in the kingdom, along with the echelon. The king has an urgent matter that he needs to speak with them on. And they all gather in the great hall in his castle. And he begins speaking. And as he continues speaking, things get less coherent and less clear. What he's saying, it makes less and less sense. And at the end, he accuses specific knights, including Rowland, of treason. And it is all those knights that wouldn't follow his orders, no matter what. And we now have a dichotomy here that's worth naming. The knights under Rowland, the ones that continue to seek justice and act in a manner, that they're used to, we can just refer to as the echelon. And the knights that began to act as the enforcer and follow orders no matter what, we now refer to as the dark echelon. So the dark echelon is positioned in the Great Hall to take action and wipe out the echelon, this opposition that the king sees in his now mad state. And the dark echelon slaughters every knight in the Great Hall that it's a part of the echelon, or so they think. Rowland, in his growing concern, felt something was wrong towards the end of this speech, and at the accusation of treason, is able to slightly deflect the deadly blade that is thrust at him from a member of the Dark Echelon. But realizing that he has been totally betrayed, plays dead amongst the bodies of his compatriots, his friends, his family of knights. He plays dead. And it's this same time that the king lays out a larger plan. Throughout the land, the king has ordered the Dark Echelon to slaughter the families of the Echelon, hunt down any member of their family that may resist or may raise protest at what has happened and at this betrayal. and they're slaughtered. Rowland's family, being in the king's castle in their own tower, is particularly vulnerable. And as Rowland's body is carried out of the castle amongst the other corpses, he sees the tower that his family was in burning. And this tower burns through the night, absolutely killing his family, his actual family, and everyone that he loved. So it is in this pile of bodies after this betrayal of this father figure and the obvious slaughter of his family that he makes a vow to avenge the kingdom and all those that died that day at the hand of the Dark Echelon and the king. It's in this, quiet that he's waiting in this pile of his friends that he makes this vow. He slowly, after nightfall, he slowly edges out of the pile, managing to bandage his wound, knowing that he can't really do anything from inside of the castle where he is alone. He's surrounded by enemies. He flees. He runs out into the woods, into the kingdom, and into the wilderness. Knowing that, going back and standing one man against the Dark Echelon and the King's forces is futile, he makes a different life for himself. He puts away the noble life that he once had and goes back to being a woodsman, learning how to live off the land, learning how to ambush, how to attack, spending every day of his life training for the fight that he knows will eventually face him. And in doing this, he, like I mentioned, he learns how to ambush, and he uses this opportunity, this great ability that he has, this great training, to weaken the king whenever he can. So he attacks caravans of his warriors. He attacks, supply lines, and takes from those caravans any supplies he needs and spreads the rest to the poorest in the kingdom. During this whole time, the Dark Echelon and the king is wreaking havoc across the land, across his kingdom, outside of the kingdom, and Rowland is trying to do what he can to slow them, to hurt them. So he continues this, and he slowly gains a reputation. The people come up with a name for him. They call him the Avenger. Really sort of, you want to draw an analogy here, really sort of like a Robin Hood character, but less tights, less bow and arrows, less singing and dancing. And, he gains this reputation amongst the people. And one night he's sleeping in the woods in a hideout, and he has a figure appear, a burning figure. In the story, we describe it, the figure as light, fire, and fury. And the figure speaks to him and says, we see what you have been doing, and we want to help you. We want to, aid you in this quest for justice, for good, for life. If you've been following along in our weekly stories, you probably will recognize a figure of fire and fury. She speaks to him, and he, of course, takes help. He can use all the help he can get. And so what she gives him is, what she sends to him is a little fire. And that fire lands on Rowland and burns him, consumes his skin, goes in through his mouth, ears, nose, everywhere it can, and burns him out, hollows him out. And what is left, what is born anew, is something stronger. And Rowland is no longer. Now he is the Avenger. And that is where our story ends.
Very nice.
Yeah, wow.
Thank you. It was a fun one. You get all sorts of like, archetypes in there, and it was fun.
I also like how it wraps into multiple earlier stories.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I like the order we've been going in
Mhm.
because you can get those tie-ins now if you've read the other stories, you can sort
Mhm.
of see these figures appearing.
So this Dark Echelon that became of the original Echelon, they are still active, working with the mad, like this king that has gone mad, to basically make life miserable for people. Do we get to hear more about this Dark Echelon, like in the game or in more of the lore? Like, are they more important to the lore going forward? We haven't heard that much about them before. This is, I don't think it's the first time we hear about it, but it might be. But will we hear more about the Dark Echelon going forward?
Yeah, I think we will hear a lot more about the Dark Echelon, and once the game is launched and as the story progresses, I strongly suspect that we will end up seeing the Dark Echelon a lot more and meeting them, and potentially even meeting the Mad King moving forward. So I think it'll be interesting um, to see how this story
Hmm,
progresses through as we play the game.
definitely.
So the Dark Echelon was in the Warriors backstory.
Yes.
They were the group that attacked the tribe.
Hmm.
And then they were also in the Assassin story. They were hidden in the vault waiting for, well, they were waiting for someone. They were not ready. They
Oh
weren't
yeah,
waiting for him. So,
yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so I think they'll play a larger narrative role as we move forward. I sort of when I was writing this story was seeing it more as a setup,
Hmm.
providing some background, some context, not just for the Avenger, but for the world at large, and where the world was and how it shifted. Very
Hmm.
much like the similar to the vampire story, giving you some back story there and where folks came from.
Hmm. Yeah, so this is more kind of representative of what the world of eternity is today, like kind of thing. Where some of our earlier stories have also shown how the world of eternity looked like back then,
Yeah,
before all of this happened. So it's also nice that we go like back and forth, but there's a clear distinction between when we are in the past and when we are in like current or near current time in
yeah.
the eyes of eternity. Um, definitely.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I noticed that I, for whatever reason, tend to like to write these history type stories, going back and sort of setting up the world, thinking about the world where it is, and trying to establish sort of where that came from. And I noticed that Tal has done a fantastic job of sort of building out the current world as it is. So we
Mm.
have these like sort of different story writing styles that are working together to bring, give background context to the current world while also fleshing out and advancing the current world. And that's been really interesting to me to read about and see these differences.
Mhm. So you also mentioned that the day that it happened, where the king summoned the echelon and basically created the dark echelon and slaughtered the ones that didn't want, like, that didn't qualify, quote unquote, to be part of the dark
Hmm.
echelon. That was also the day that Syria decided to attack. What was it called? The tribunal, basically.
Hmm.
Um,
mhm.
So does our character from this story, the Avenger, does he become aware of this event that happens on the same day, but I guess a different area, um, where this fight between Syria and what was he called again? The tribunal they were fighting.
Mhm.
Is he aware of this, or is that like completely separated? It wasn't mentioned in the story, so I'm just asking how those two stories are related, since it happens on
Yeah.
the same day.
Yeah, I think it's, I don't think he is aware of the fight that occurs in the mountain between the members of the Council of Fate specifically. But that day when Ziria, unleashes this psychic attack and destroys the king's sanity, turning him into the Mad King, is really a formative event for the world of eternity. And we're sort of getting different perspectives on that singular event. So for the Council of Fate, it's formative because that conflict occurs. It's the shattering of the Council of Fate into their respective pieces, leading to the tribunal. And from the Avengers side, he may not know that why the king went mad right now. I think that would definitely be something worth exploring as we move forward. But it's really formative to him and to who he is, and really makes him who he is. So, it's this singular event that impacts multiple different people, and they may not know the impact on each other, or even the exact events, but is really formative for, the Avenger, the tribunal. It changes the nature of this kingdom, and really changes this kingdom from, a pinnacle of justice and good leadership, a good king, good and kind and just king, into something totally different, and in doing so shifts the landscape of eternity.
Mm-hmm.
So Siri is kind of a ground zero of this quote unquote day that just branches out to a lot of, I don't know if it's unforeseen events, but at least a lot of other events.
We have some other connections as well. We've got the assassin story, which I mentioned already. The gambler had a direct working relationship with the Mad King, and they were the ones that came up with the glory token that was part of the Dark Knight's job, is to retrieve all of those, and you can add that to some of the chaos that they're bringing around the kingdom. And then at the end of the story, we have a character that you didn't name, but I have a feeling I know who it is. Is that something that people can know?
Yeah, I think so. I like to create illusions without outright naming them, but a winged character with a special fire, I think is pretty clear. So if you want to name her.
Oh, I don't know. I just some people may not know. There's a lot of backstory to that, though. So,
but it is a character we've talked about before.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So maybe that would be a good whitelist question.
That's a great whitelist. Yeah, good.
All right, so we'll do Midnight's whitelist question of the week. For this week's question, and I'm going to go ahead and say you don't even have to get it right, but who do you think the character is that transforms the Avenger, that gives the Avenger the transformative fire that makes him who he is? So who do you think that is? She's got fire. She's got wings. She's a fiery figure.
It's a she.
It's a she.
That's pretty clear.
You blew it.
Find me on the Discord and shoot me a DM, Midnight703. DM me who you think this character is. Either the character name, her actual name, anything like that. Give it a shot. Let me know what you think, and we'll get you on the whitelist which we call the Council of Fate on our Discord.
And if you don't have the answer right away, like who you think it is, you can spend like 8 hours watching the previous 8 episodes to figure out which one it's likely to be. So there's definitely a lot of research to be done there.
Almost like we're building a game
Who would have
story.
thought?
8 hours.
Huh.
That's amazing. And we're only halfway through.
Yeah, absolutely. So you have 24 hours from right now to DM me DM me your guess on who that character is.
Yeah, and just to clarify, we are halfway through the characters, then we have all the other lore after that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very nice.
Looking forward to that Eternity anthology. Sounds
Right,
like a
yeah.
joke, but I'm not sure it is going to be a joke.
Yeah, I think I've got some ideas on some backstories for some of the characters on the other side of the coin.
Yeah.
So some NPC stories I think would be pretty nice to fill in some of the maybe plot questions and connections, so.
And then of course once the game is released, we can also cover like events that happen in the game.
Oh yeah.
Depending on like how friendly that is as kind of a commentator thing. But I'm sure we can work out something.
And I think we can get a lot of help from our community in driving that forward in nice and interesting way, drawing nice connections. I know just in the group we have writing stories right now, there are a lot of connections that people will make as they read or insert new connections into stories and stuff. So we have a lot to build.
And it also reinforces the whole community involvement, which is something that we really want to emphasize.
Yeah,
absolutely.
we still have a bard boss getting put together.
Mm-hmm.
I guess
and
we can
backstory.
also have an episode about that guy, even though the community technically already knows, because they built him. But I guess it could be interesting to have like an episode where people can actually relate in a way.
Who
like
wrote
more
that
than I am not sure, actually.
It was sort of a collection. I think Arbiculum helped significantly with a significant portion of that. And I wrote a little bit there, and we had a good number of community members contribute small pieces. So
That's
just
awesome.
the beginning.
No, there's a lot of potential at least.
Yeah.
Cool.
Any more questions about the story, or Tobias, maybe if you have any questions? I don't know. You have some collected.
I think no, I think that was the only thing I had to say. So
Guess we can slowly transition into the Q&A. So I don't see any questions just yet in the chat. So if you guys have any questions you would like to have answered here on stream, now is the time to put them in. If we don't have any questions, I guess we can find a topic to talk about. I'm sure we can fill out the time. But yeah,
anyone in the anyone in the chat room want to throw out a topic for us or question, we'd be happy to go over.
Yeah, we can just take questions as we go and topics, I guess. Until then, I definitely have a topic that I found pretty funny. It actually happened last week. I found out that resetting two-factor authentication is actually really difficult. And not so much getting the two-factor authentication deactivated, but the information you require to do that is, I guess, different from platform to platform, but the particular platform that I needed it reset for, because somehow it had like gotten desynchronized from itself. So I put in the code. I had the code, so it wasn't because I lost my phone or something. I had the code, And when the website asked for the code, I put in the code, and it kept saying it was the wrong code, which was weird. At the same time, I also received an email from the website with another code, and I was like, okay, maybe it's different, so I need the email code. Like, the email code is literally sent from the server that is asking for the code, so obviously that would be a code that's working, but that code didn't work either, which is really interesting. So not only was my Authenticator app desynchronized, but their own server was desynchronized with itself, or I'm not sure how the technical details of that is, but I found it weird that the server can wait for a code, send out the code it's waiting for, and then it's still the wrong code. Not sure how that works. So I had to contact their support and be like, this doesn't work for some reason. I have no idea. I have tried all the codes. I've tried for multiple days. Please help. And it was pretty simple. I just had to fill in some information. I had to write my name. I had to, on a note, a handwritten note, with my name, a code I got from the support guy, and today's date. Well, the date of the day that I requested it. And then I had to do that with a selfie of me holding the note. And I was like, okay, that's simple enough. I'll just do that. Until it hit me that when you write a handwritten note and you go to take a selfie of yourself holding a handwritten note, the handwritten note is mirrored. So I was like, how the fuck am I supposed to do this? I'm standing here taking a selfie of myself with a mirrored handwritten note, and I really... So later I found out on modern phones you can actually adjust your camera, like the selfie camera, to automatically mirror the image so it becomes like correct and stuff. I've checked my phone. My phone does not support that, so at least I'm not being completely stupid. I found that that's possible later. But I was really trying to figure out how can I take this selfie that I need to take, because I was thinking, like, do I have to write the handwritten note mirrored so it will be correct? But I'm like, this is way too advanced. There has to be an easier way. And after some thinking, I was like, okay, I'll go to a mirror. Then I will use the mirror so I can look at my screen on my phone. So I can take an image as if someone was holding my phone, taking an image of me while I'm holding the note. At least then everything would be the correct, like it wouldn't be mirrored. And after some trial and error, I finally managed to get the selfie with the note in the correct orientation. Everything was perfect. And I was like, I sent them back and I was like, holy shit, this was a lot more complicated than I expected. I hope this works. I sent it to them, and then after some time, I think a couple of hours, I get a response, and they're like, looks good, there's just one problem. We need to be able to see the entirety of your arm holding the note, or I think taking the selfie or something like that. And I think I had the note like here, and I had the selfie pretty much as my webcam is now. So my arm was like cut off. They couldn't see the arm that I used to take the selfie.
Oh my gosh.
So I had to redo it. And then I had to figure out, okay, so how do I take a selfie so that they can see my entire arm? Like, it was difficult enough because the room that I had to work with was quite small. So I had limited space. So luckily on the mirror I used, like part of the mirror in the side can be adjusted a bit. So I could just adjust it enough so I could still see the screen if I stood like a little more to the side. And that was just enough. Like, I had to turn the camera so it was a bit skewed as well, but it was just enough to get like everything in frame. And then I could do it. And then I sent it in, and then it was like accepted and everything. And I finally got the 2-factor reset and everything. But man,
you had to mirror the mirror in order to get it right. I wouldn't have even noticed that. I'm sure they would have said, your code is backwards. Oh, no.
Yeah. Yeah, it didn't occur to me at all because it's been ages since I've ever written a handwritten note. Like, I don't do that anymore. And then, like, writing a handwritten note, that would be no problem for me. But then, as soon as I had to take the image, I was like, wait a minute. There's some problem here.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
That's really funny. Oh
And
my
it is
gosh.
not something you think about. It's just like, well, that sounds easy enough. Just handwritten note, selfie with handwritten
Yeah.
note, problem solved, no problem. But
Oh my gosh.
it gets tricky real fast. So yeah, that's a funny story from last week.
Oh my gosh. That's
All right,
awesome.
so we have in the chat here, Biculum says gameplay mechanics are always interesting to understand for the game, showing us step by step how you play the beta, explaining what buttons you are pressing and why. So I guess we can move into some gameplay. I did prepare the gameplay in case we needed it. So I guess we could definitely do that. If you guys want to talk over me playing the game, because multitasking and stuff is it's difficult, then I will get it set up here.
Here's a question, Midnight. From One Coin to Rule Them All, who will be invited to participate in early access for the Eternity? All members of the Council of Fate or just a select few members within the community?
I am so glad you asked. Sounds like a timely question following the whitelist question for the week. It is my understanding right now that early access will be for Council of Fate members. So that is just another reason to shoot me a DM, answer my question, get on the Council of Fate. You don't have to retweet, like, and invite 5 of your cousins to our Twitter, Discord, and birthday party or anything. Just shoot me a DM, give me a guess on the question, and you will be in the group that gets in for early access. On top of the early access, the Council of Fate members can also mint the Gen Zero character packs. These character packs contain 5 characters. 4 of them are random, they won't be duplicates, and the 5th is the Valkyrie. And I can tell you from playing with the Valkyrie, you're going to want her on your team. She is fantastic. She has some great abilities, especially once you hit level 50. It's one of my favorites. But she will be a great character. The only way you can mint her is by buying that Gen Zero pack.
Yep.
So just another great reason to answer my question. Easy enough.
And they're all
get on the
epic.
council.
They're all
Yes.
epic. And I think we probably need to clarify, but because I was thinking that you had to mint the Gen Zeros to get early access. Like I didn't. I mean, I guess we need to get that clarified if it's just open, or if you need to actually have a minted, character in your wallet. So we probably need to make sure we.
I think that would depend. If they have the common pack in the store at the time the early access goes live, I assume. Anyone?
I don't know if that's true. That's the question. I think it might be you have to mint the Gen Zeros to get early access as a thank you to the people that mint. So that's something we can put in the Discord after we get that 100% from North. So, but good question. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think before we fully launch, we will likely do an episode where we can walk through the timeline and how things will happen and what you need to do to get different things. So, but yeah, early access for the Council of Fate. So come and join us.
Yep, I'll just want to point out before I start the gameplay here. This is the endless mode of Eternity, and I have been told that endless mode is not going to be in like the playable version of the game for everyone, at least not initially. It's not meant to be. If it will be there later, I don't know. It's just a disclaimer that what you're seeing here is not actually how the game is gonna this is not how you're gonna start the game once it's out. This is just like the beta part of it.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that people don't get hyped for endless mode and then it isn't there. I've been told it's not going to be there in the final game that is released, so just to get that out of the way. These are the 4 characters I have chosen to play with for this time. The Valkyrie and the Augur, obviously the best characters that you can get. We want to have those in our party, and then High Priestess for some healing, and the Vampire I actually chose just because she's pretty cool. So yeah, that's the team for tonight. Let's get into it.
I do have a response from North about the question that OneCoin just asked. And the answer is yes, you will need to mint a Gen 0 pack to be able to play the early access.
Okay, good to know. Okay, so Valkyrie will start. Let's see. Okay, so it seems like this one targets all of them. Oh, right, it targets herself, so she gets like a buff. She's harder to hit. So I feel like this game is a lot about buffs and debuffs. Like, it's not just this person hits that person for this amount of health. It's also this person has a shit ton of debuffs. He's not doing.
I'm on run coming. I think I'm gonna apply for that to be my new job, Arbiculum. Is that I'm just gonna do. We're gonna turn this into what's it called? I don't know. I'm old. The gaming, like League of Legends. There you go.
So just so you guys know, as you're looking at these abilities here that each of these characters have, there is a description. Most of the ability scaling is based on your character level. So you'll see a lot of X type of damage multiplied by caster level, if you'll notice in the augur. So as your characters gain levels, your abilities will get more powerful, and looks like that's how it's the damage or the healing, if you will scale with difficulty. The higher level enemies, you guys will get higher levels. Just an interesting note on the scaling of everything.
Yes.
We will also, just real quick, we will also have a wiki for you guys to look at to your heart's desire, with a lot of numbers that you can look at and play with. Not all the numbers will be there because we want the community to have a little bit of fun figuring out some things, but just giving you guys a good baseline and sort of strategy building resource. We'll have a wiki.
Cool.
So
sorry. I was going to say
it's not going particularly well for me this round.
I was just going to say that everyone should keep in mind that the characters here in the endless are just randomly selected, and in the game they'll be appropriate for your campaign story and leveling. So it may look like we're way underpowered, but it's probably because the levels that he is at and the levels that they're at are not the same. So
yeah, it'd be the perfect game to get one of those elementals in there and really show them how things scale. Those elementals are much higher level, so every time I'm playing a game and see an elemental, I'm like, all right, here we go. This is the last round. But not only. Go ahead.
Okay, I can do it. So another thing I want to mention is also you may notice sometimes a character is played like either twice or very quickly in succession. It's because Eternity is not turn-based, at least not traditionally turn-based. It is actually real-time. You can see these yellow bars under the health bars. That's actually their, I don't know what the official name for them is, but it's like time units, I guess we could call them. And that determines how close a character is to be able to perform an action. So when they are like filled up, it's that character's turn, or at least their turn is imminent. So you're not playing each character by turn. You're playing each character as soon as they are replenished, quote unquote.
Yes.
So just keep that in mind when you're watching this, and that's why the order like doesn't make sense, because there is no order. It's just whoever is ready to fight fights.
Yep. I mean, you could just call it the action bar for now, and then so you can see that it refills itself after every action is taken, and that's why at the top when you see turns, that's every turn of every character. It's not like one side and then the other. So every time that turn goes, you get a allotment of action put back into the bar, and that's why you can also buff and debuff time.
Yes.
And the buffs and looks like there's a question. Do they lose their action bar when filled or stays filled? So when the action bar is filled, it is then that character or that enemy's turn, and you perform an action, an attack, one of the ones along the bottom, and then it resets, goes back to 0 and then restarts. But there are buffs and debuffs that will freeze the action bar, so freeze an enemy, stun an enemy like you just saw in the crab, or haste will increase the speed at which that action bar fills. And I might be mistaken, but I think there is also a character statistic that you can add points to as they level up that will help that action bar fill faster.
I have also noticed that certain abilities subtract more action points than other abilities. Like some abilities don't use as much time to execute than others. So you can have some abilities that you might want to play before another ability because it makes your character recover faster.
Yeah. So Arbiculum, if you look at the screen right now, you'll see that nothing's happening and the auger's full. So unless they add a skip mechanism, the game won't continue until you do something with or pick an action for that character.
Yeah. So the game.
Did he also cut out for others, or did I lose my internet? Are we still here?
And which ability I'm going to use then, and then what's the next one, and then what's the one after that, to get sort of a flow and reap the best benefits. On the buffs and debuffs, I will say that those are absolutely essential, I have found, to any sort of longevity. Stuff like the regeneration is totally essential. So you get to a point where you can see above the health bar there's buff and debuff icons, and I've played games where those icons are really long. There is a ton of buffs and debuffs, so those are really essential, and you'll notice the enemies will debuff you or buff themselves, and that becomes a large part of the game and strategy in the game.
Yeah, when you have this many combinations of characters and skills, and then add that to the number of combinations of enemies, there's a lot of opportunity for theory crafting in this. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Hey, you did it.
Yeah.
And I know at the current level that Hisha is playing, you'll notice there are only a few abilities, but when you get to the higher levels, that ability bar fills up, and I've spent a significant amount of time just reading each of the abilities, getting familiar with each of the abilities, what they are, what they do. Some of them have active and passive benefits or debuffs or buffs. So all of that kind of stuff. The abilities can get pretty complex. So
Yeah. Well, you can let's go back to the esport comment that Arbiculum said. I mean, this game really lends itself to a potential P on VP because it is so strategy turn oriented.
Yeah.
And to understand your opponent is to be able to win, or your opponent's abilities. And
Yeah.
I do think there's a lot of potential opportunity there. And you could, potentially create different tiers of fights so that commons fight commons and
Mhm.
epics fight epics, whatnot, so that we really try to keep the can you pay to win to a absolute minimum. I mean, yeah, you got to buy the characters to fight, but then after that, it's really being able to understand what you can do and what your opponents can do.
I think the game is a little bit broken right now, it seems. I resurrected the Augur, but he's still lying on the ground.
Alaressa.
It's fine.
Yeah, I definitely would agree that there is some really good PvP opportunity here. Tournaments, we've had a lot of discussions internally about some possibilities there, and of course that's
Yeah.
that will develop, and we'll talk more about it after we get launched and as those things come about. But I think there is huge opportunity here. It's much more of a game of chess than I don't know, even checkers.
Yeah, well, it's not a click or
Right.
hand-eye coordination game. It's
Yeah.
a thought game.
And it's not an idle game.
No, it is not an idle game. Look, there's going to be people that aren't interested in this kind of strategy game, but there's going to be people that are, and we don't need everybody. We just want the people who like these kind of games.
Yeah. That Anomaly is new. I haven't seen him before.
I haven't either. Yeah.
It's pretty badass. It just healed like all the enemies, and it just attacked all my people. Yeah, it's. Oof. I need that dead.
So we'll have to keep an eye out for the anomalies. Oh, there's regeneration. Ouch.
Also, my Augur is taking a long time to do his turn because he's just sleeping. But the game doesn't play animations for the Augur, so it's just like waiting, and then
So what
suddenly
happens?
this, and then suddenly it's gonna do the attack. Oh no.
Oh, there it is.
So-
Ha ha ha! Your animation. I got it.
So as always, the game is still in beta, so there, inevitably there will be things like that we run into. But
I mean, we've played it all the way up to level 50. So I mean, they've got it rolling. It's just a matter of getting some of the stuff fine tuned, and then I think they're working on the marketplace stuff in the village.
Yeah.
So
Man,
level 50 is a lot of fun.
Actually,
Level 50
that's when the game starts.
Yeah, absolutely.
As it always is.
I think. Yeah, there'll be some really cool stuff after level 50 from what the team's been talking about. And there will be things for the casual player. There will be things for completionists. There is an achievement system for everyone that loves their achievements. Talk about total completionists. And there will be things that are really hard to get.
Yeah.
And they'll be worth it. you know. So it'd be something for everybody. The things that are hard to get will not, you know, from what I understand, they are helpful, they're beneficial. They're not 100% necessary to play or enjoy the game, or, you know, make a good return on the game, which I know is another big aspect of this. You know, it's play and earn, and you can still get the earn part without these difficult to get items and stuff like
Mhm.
that. So,
Well, I mean,
um,
it's part of the game. I mean, if you want it, you gotta work for it.
Yep.
Well, you know what I mean? Like, just like any game.
Yeah.
The question is the interaction of playing enjoyable or boring, you know?
Right.
Are we grinding for what reason? Some people are happy to grind for just to get glory, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
This guy,
And
skeletal male at the bottom, just really hates my vampire for some reason.
they're going after her. Um,
Well, you made it through another one though.
Most, yeah.
nice. Very nice. That resurrection
Oh, interesting.
is
Massive.
important. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I tried all these times I tried playing without the high priestess,
Mm.
or any healer at all, I should say. It was just brutal.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I learned quickly that the vampire and the high priestess are great because the vampire tends to heal herself, and the high
Mhm.
priestess can heal the party, and that resurrection is absolutely essential. So
Well, I think this is a good point to end.
We are a little over, aren't we?
No, yeah. I think this is a fight I can't win.
there's another one. There's another anomaly.
Yes, and a shade, and fucking 2 orc pawns. Yeah. But yeah, we are also over time. That's very unfortunate. So we can't find out how badly I'm gonna get faked on this battle. Very unfortunate. But yeah, remember the whitelist question. It's also put in the chat. So if you missed it when we talked about it on stream, you can read back in the chat. I guess we can quickly go through it again. The question was, who do you think the character that transforms the Avenger at the end of the story was? And you have, of course, the usual 24 hours from when the stream ends till the question can't be answered anymore, and you have to DM Midnight on Discord with your answer, or with your guess in this case. Yes, I assume you guys have gone through everything else, or is there some final comments you want to put on some of the things you have discussed with the chat?
I don't think so.
Well, just check us out on Discord,
Mhm.
Twitter mostly,
Hmm.
and then YouTube.
Yeah, and in order to find all the platforms we have, go to the Discord, discord.gg/EternityRPG. In there, you will be able to find a channel called Links, and that has all the links that you need for the rest of the platforms. Definitely check out the platforms that you use. If you use YouTube, then subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you're watching this on YouTube, then hello to you as well. And make sure to follow our Twitch channel so you can catch the episodes in the future.
Tell all your friends.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you use Instagram, you can also follow our Instagram and Twitter if you use Twitter, and etc. I don't know how many platforms we actually have besides those that we mentioned, but maybe there are some that I forget.
I think that's it.
Cool. Yeah, well, I think that's the end of this episode then, and we'll see you guys in next week for the next one.
Thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, guys. Have a good week.
Yep, thank you guys. Glory to the holders.
Glory to the holders.
All right, thanks guys. Bye-bye.
See ya.
Bye.